Welcome to the hottest tech from Fort William, from, well, all these rad races behind me. Let's go find out what's happening. Okay, we've just seen Tahnee speed past on a, well, it was marked as a canyon, but it didn't look like a canyon sender. She was in the speed suit as well, so it's this new Fox, not a skin suit, almost looks like a skin suit. It's meant to save lots of watts on the hill. But yeah, back to that bike. It got, I think, an idler. The shock's in a different place. It looks very different from the current sender. So yeah, lots of interesting tech that maybe we'll get to see more of. Interesting. Okay, we're here in the YT Mod pits, and this isn't just any YT Tues. This is Vali Höll's. This is the brand new, just released YT Tues. It's got a lot of super trick stuff, some of which we can talk about, some of which we can't. So Vali is a SRAM athlete, so she's got Rockshox front and back. So we've got a coil here, but it's kind of missing a lot of labels, so interesting. I feel like there'll be more to reveal on that one soon, but up front we've got, well, these are just the wildest boxers I think I've ever seen. They're truly tremendous, really incredible stuff. A lot going on. I feel like a lot that we probably can't yet talk about. No doubt from SRAM it's going to have some unique and special tech in it. This is from the hive mind from Orbea's OLab, where they just get to dream up and do wild things that, well, you might not think you want to do, but I say wild. I'm using that word on purpose because this is an Orbea Wild, which is their e-bike, but this is not an e-bike. This is a new Ultra Proto OLab downhill bike, custom made for Martin Maes. So we've got an alloy frame. I mean, it almost tricked me into thinking that it was carbon. It's so smooth welded, but there's a few little telltale signs of welds in here. We've got mixed wheel size, so 650B on the back, 29er on the front. But then we've got this covered cloth around the sort of bottom bracket area. Now, we've been promised that it's not a motor, but there's something going on in there. I mean, what I can say, it is, I mean, ridiculously supple off the top. So I feel like there's some magic happening in there. What it is, I can only speculate. We've still got the Bosch unit up here, but I've been assured that it's not plugged in. It's not going to give Martin Maes an extra boost. I mean, we can see down here as well, there's definitely something going on. What it is, well, we'll just have to wait and find out. It's so interesting. We're just cruising around the pits. It's all gone quite quiet because pretty much everybody's gone on the course for course walk. But we're outside the Mondraker factory racing team, so new team this year, and looking at some of the bikes. And we've got these amazing super high-rise bars on Dakotah Norton's bike. Okay, so we're stunned by the high-rise bars, but there's some other cool features on that bike. I think with my I Spy BD bike nerd eye, I can see some new pedals. Maybe from Shimano. So interesting to see how those develop during the season. This is the legend, the GOAT that is Greg Minnaar's bike. And compared to last year's bike, this is wildly different. It's a bike that we covered last year. It was a prototype in an awesome raw finish. And this is getting a lot more finished. It's still not yet production, but getting close to. And it's the new Norco DH bike. There is a lot going on here. I mean, the reach on this bike is huge. It is adjustable through cups, which is really nice to see. Moving down, this one's got a progression link change. So that's what that flip chip does there. There's some other flip chips and adjustment around the bottom bracket, including a sort of slightly hidden link. But effectively, they've got a high pivot bike with lots and lots of adjustment. That means that they can adjust things like the brake feel and the ride height, and also the suspension curves and how it feels without affecting other parts of the bike, which sounds really complicated, but for the suspension technicians that we've got there's two design engineers, dual laptop setup, so this bike is going to get raced very hard and set up extremely well. So it might look like it's got a bottle cage there, but that's the data acquisition system. We saw the race engineers setting that up. So it's still an ongoing project for Norco to develop this into, well, just a super bike. And I mean, it's looking pretty much like a super bike already. It's got a humongous shock in there with a huge stroke rate. So it's going to be around 200 mil of travel, but apparently that does change when you change some of the suspension curves. Really interesting, and something that I very sure that Greg did not run when he was on Santa Cruz is a mixed wheel size setup. So we've got a 650B on the back and 29er on the front. We've also got a very cute drawing of Greg here. I mean, it's very lifelike. Super exciting. This is from Specialized Gravity. This is a prototype downhill bike. We saw Loic and we saw Finn Isles racing this last year, and now World Cup winner #1 of last year, Jordan Williams, has got one of these amazing prototype bikes. So we've got aluminium machined lugs, we've got carbon tubes, it's all bonded together. It's still in a prototype form on the kind of rear swing link, which helps create the axle path. They've now got a bolt-on frame brace. So I'm hypothesizing, because we don't know, it is a prototype, but I suspect that's something to do with frame stiffness. And maybe it can change how the bike tracks dynamically. It's a one-piece sort of seat stay, all made out of carbon. So that feels like it's getting quite production-y. Now, around the shock mount, again, there's lots of little bolts for additional covers. So some of the other bikes have got additional covers. And chatting to the mechanics, it's essentially to hide something that's going on with the shock. What's happening? We're not sure. Effectively, it looks like a 4-bar linkage. We've also got multi-links to drive the shock. So previous versions that we've seen had a sort of an adjustable lower link. That's the one just below the chainstay that you can see. And it looks like now we've got a machined one with various different sort of writing on it. So I suspect that is now a set piece. So on the back, we've got actually quite a narrow rear setup. Looking at it, it looks like it's just boost rather than 150 or 157 spacing, so that's interesting. Up front, we've got the Öhlins DH fork. Interestingly, I saw a number of different coloured crowns and slightly subtly different clamp setups on all 3 bikes in the pits here. So I imagine that they might be playing with different trail or different offsets of the fork to do different things. The fuzzy Velcro just on the inside here of the sort of like number board, essentially. It's a marsh guard number board, and it's just to keep the sound down, so it's nice and quiet. Lots of these subtle details. I mean, you could do these at home on your own bike, but it just makes your bike that much quieter so you can concentrate on the track. Last time at Worlds, we saw an amazing paint job on a prototype Saracen Myst, and now, well, we've got another wild paint job. I think it's my favourite paint job. It's absolutely awesome. Talking of tech, this bike is packed with cool tech. So suspension-wise, it's relatively complex because it's a single pivot with a floating brake arm, and we've got a link-activated shock. It's very complex. This one is a pros-only version with the telemetry or data capture device pre-built into the frame. Also, a small flip chip, and this is to tune the shock at really extreme World Cup angles, and it changes slightly how the mid-stroke is and whether there's a little bit more support. So it changes the suspension curve a tiny bit. Something that we're talking to sort of team managers and racers here that is very subtle, and probably on a production bike you may not notice. But racers are racers, and they want these minute changes. So that's why they've got it on their race bikes. Again, the paint job is a real eye-grabber. Feels like a sort of Tame Impala album cover, but say what you think it's about. They've got matching kit to go with it as well for the sort of like 3 races that are coming up next, and then the next 3 they'll have other bikes, and the next 3 races after that they'll have other bikes. So look out for some wild kits in the future. Okay, something secret, something forbidden. Yeah, jokes aside, we've got 2 awesome Supernauts. Got Conor Fearon's bike just here, and then we've got Brooke McDonald's bike just here. So Brooke is running a steering damper from a company called Pademelon. So Australian fans will know that that's a small marsupial, but for others, now you know. It's a steering damper. It's really adjustable, and it is actually changing the damping of how the bars move and how quickly and slowly they can move. So it's really clever. I'm interested to see if we see more of this. Okay, it's all action in the pits today, and we've dived into the We Are One Composites pits to have a look at their new prototype DH bike. There's a lot going on. It's a really fascinating bike. It's all carbon, all handmade in Canada. Let's dive into some of the tech. I said it's all carbon. It's a bit misleading. As you can see, there's some of these bits, these silver sections here are machined alloy. Again, they're machined by We Are One. They've got their own machine lab as well. So these are some of the links that they're prototyping and they can change. And the reason why they're silver is just because they haven't had time to anodize them. It's a really fast-moving project. Really interesting is these convergent rims. So these are We Are One 30mm wide rims. On initial inspection, just like, okay, cool, it's another carbon rim. But then you start to look in the details and it's really incredible. Effectively, the spokes are straight when they exit the rim. And that sounds like probably a minor detail, but it means a lot in terms of loading of the nipples and loading of the spokes. It means that they can have really high tension, but really kind of even loading of it. Okay, well, my mind is pretty much blown from all that tech. I mean, so many favourites, but my favourite is not really important. Your favourite is. So tell us in the comments which one is your favourite. Which one do you want us to do a longer bike check on? Let us know.